recapping Rich Strike's 80-1 upset in the Kentucky Derby one. Hey everyone, it's Vinny. I'm back, and we've had a couple days to digest exactly what happened in Kentucky Derby 148 that led to a Rich Strike being able to upset the field from post 20, wearing saddlecloth number 21 at 80-1. And we'll just pick it up here at the start. Uh, right at the start, Sonny Leon does a great job of he doesn't hustle him out of the gate, and he just slowly slides him all the way over to the rail. This is all the way over, and he saves so much ground right there, but it does puts him very far back. And I said it on pretty much every show we did up until this point. It's very hard to take a horse that's going to have to pass 17, 18 other horses to win the Kentucky Derby. And I ultimately that's what he did. He passed I want to say he passed 17 others. Yeah, he is nearly dead last. He has two horses beat in the early stages of this one. But with that pace, it ended up working out for him. Uh Not much more you can say about that. Everything just aligned for him. The holes opened up when they needed to. Horses moved out of his way when they needed to, which was absolutely crazy. It really did. I mean, I know a lot of people are comparing it to Mind That Bird, when Mind the Bird just kind of skirted up the rail, and that really is exactly what happened here. I mean, he just got a great trip late. Everyone moved out of his way. You see him, he's kind of bunched up in there mid pack, and then you're gonna see him and he bounces over to the inside, and horses just move out of his way. And it was very incredible. Right here, it looked like Epicenter was gonna turn this thing into a runaway. And Zandon comes up on him. And I actually think Zandon and Epicenter could have gone around again, and I don't think Epicenter was ever gonna let Zandon by him. Epicenter was just so game here, and just never saw Rich Strike. This is kind of similar to the way that he lost to Call Me Midnight earlier in earlier in the year. So it was gonna show the I'm gonna show the aerial view you here quick, where you can really see what happened here. And there is a moment where it looks like Sonny wants to bounce this horse outside. I'm going to pause it once we get to that moment here. And that moment is about right here. So they have Rich Strike highlighted here. And obviously Epicenter's highlighted for as good as he ran. He ran second. But Sonny moves this horse, and this horse directly to his outside. That is Simplification, who ends up finishing fourth and was closing just as well. He just ends up taking the wide trip. And it looked like, because Sonny couldn't get Rich Strike out into the clear, he was forced down inside where everything just opened up. You'll see Simplification's just blocking him. So Sonny's got nowhere to go here. So Sonny starts moving him towards the inside while Jose takes Simplification and keeps him in that like 3-4 path, and then swings him wide. But the rail opens up there, and there's not really. You look up here, and you got Messier is on the rail, and you got Crown Pride with the orange saddlecloth right there, and there's not a lot of room there between them for him to squeeze through. But at the last second, Crown Pride drifts a little bit and fades back and makes that hole. He weaves around a tiring Messier, and that was it. And as you can see, Simplification right here is neck and neck with him after running those extra feet, because he had to go wide. And not saying Simplification would have won, but I mean he ran huge, just like Rich Strike did late. And that ground saving trip, because Sonny couldn't get him out, in my opinion, is ultimately what won him the race. I don't, if he went wide like Simplification did, he does. I don't think he wins. I think he gets up there for third, but he definitely doesn't win. It was the fact that Sonny had to take him inside that won this race with the ground saved, and he only had to. He in reality after that moment, which was like after this moment here, he really only had to go around one horse where everybody else is going around all these other horses because he ducks him in and everything opens up on the rail. So the only horse he really has to maneuver his way around at this point is Messier on the rail. And he splits Messier there, and then that was it. Like everybody else, he didn't have to really contend against anybody else late in the race, which is just unbelievable how that opened up. I've really never seen anything like that. That was an epic pace collapse where everything just went the right way. They could run that race 100 times, and that's not happening again, in my opinion. That was absolutely crazy. But take nothing away from him. We all overlooked him. I mean, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of tweets at this point. People saying, "Can't believe we overlooked him. He had the best late pace figures." That was kinda all you really had to go on, and if you're really gonna bet a horse with the best, only go off of he had the best late pace figures of anybody in the field, and that's what you were gonna base your wagering off of, okay, then yeah, you did overlook him, but I just one of those ones, you turn the page, there's no you can it's hard to really learn from a 20 horse field when things happen like that. The pace epically collapsed because everybody chased. You had 8 horses chasing a uh the fastest quarter time ever in a race that's nearly 150 years old. You had like everybody just they all tired out. You had the rail perfectly open up for a long shot to just scoot up the rail. I mean, those are things that like that's hard to handicap for. The everybody else is gonna fade. The rail's gonna open up, and the horse from the 21 post is gonna get the perfect ground saving trip. Like that's just things like I get. There's everyone's trying to make sense of it, and it's one of those moments. It makes sense when you look back at it. Like okay, like it could have happened, but hard to really learn from a race like that. Oh, I think we learned who some real contenders are for this division. I think a Rich Strike, I think, is in a smaller field. I don't think he's going to be half bad. He, especially if he really does like dirt, they had been running him on synthetic, and his numbers had been improving on synthetic. Not nearly good enough to use him, in my opinion, in the Derby for any. I saw a couple people use him underneath, and he made sense at a huge price. I thought there were better ones that you could have used, but a Epicenter ran a monster race considering where he was early. Zandon ran huge. Simplification ran huge. Yeah, so I think those two are two of the are two of the tops. Rich Strike, we'll see what he does in the Preakness and later on this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at least on the board in a bunch of these starts coming up. Even Mind That Bird, when he won at 50 to 1, ended up being second in the Preakness. He finished like third in the. I think he finished like third in another Grade 1 or something like that. Like he wasn't. He didn't end up being terrible. So I wouldn't consider Rich Strike a one and done type horse, but if I had to use a horse going forward, it would be Epicenter. He ran an absolutely monstrous race here. Also, I would be interested in some of the horses who sat right off that pace and faded, or like at least finished well. The top of the first 7 horses at the first quarter in the Derby, all of them finished 10th or worse. That just shows how bad that pace collapse was. But like Zozos is one I'd be interested in moving forward. He ran a huge race from post 19 and being as near that pace as he was. So it's definitely gonna be interesting moving forward. I wouldn't exactly toss Rich Strike, though, next time out, he is going to be a fraction of the price, and you're never going to see him drift up like that again. He's the Derby winner. Everyone's going to remember him as the Derby winner. Maybe in a deep grade one field, you might get lucky and get like 10-1 on him, but that's probably the best you can hope if you are a fan of him. It's a great story for the sport that we had this long shot win from small time connections with small time jockey. It's absolutely great for the sport. So I'm a fan of the result, even though I lost. It was definitely a cool moment. But if you're still upset that you didn't cash tickets, I mean, in my opinion, this was a freak result. They could run this race 100 times, and this would probably never happen again. And this horse probably would never finish better than third in those 100 times you run it. It just everything from Summer is Tomorrow setting a ridiculous pace to seven other horses trying to stay up on the pace. Um, I want to say it was the first 8 or 9 horses, I believe I saw the stat, ran a faster opening quarter than Medina Spirit did last year, who went gate to wire. So you had 8 or 9 horses in this field run a quicker opening quarter than the horse that went gate to wire in the Derby did. Like, that's why the pace collapsed. And I don't know if it was just nobody wanted to let Summers Tomorrow get away, or they were just trying to hold position. But I mean, this is kind of what used to happen in the Derby when sprinters used to get in. So that was kind of cool to see. It was unexpected, but this is what you used to see before the point system was you get sprinters and they would go as fast as they can for as long as they can, and then they just drop back. Sydney's Candy is one that comes to mind, who ran a ridiculous opening quarter and then faded badly. Palace Malice did that. He wasn't a sprinter. He actually went on to win the Belmont, but Palace Malice did that. So it was nice to see. It was nice to see this kind of derby again. It definitely makes it interesting, especially for next year, depending on who gets in, how the pace scenario sets up, because this is really the first time since the point system that we've had an epic pace collapse, or we've had ridiculous fractions like that without having a super horse like Justify, who also ran some ridiculous early fractions and was able to hold on. So, yeah, all in all, I mean, it was just everything worked out. Everything worked out for Rich Strike and his connections. Hats off to him. It was an amazing ride. I wouldn't take too much into use like handicapping out of this race. I think for a lot of these horses, especially the horses on the pace, you draw a line through it. A horse like Epicenter, I think he's very dangerous moving forward. They did just announce him for the Preakness prior to me recording this. I think there's your Preakness favorite and your Preakness likely winner. Simplification is already said to be going too. There's another horse where we said it all week before the Derby. He might not win, but we kind of knew what we were going to get out of Simplification, and we got just that. We got a great run. So he's another horse who is going to be, I think, is going to be dangerous moving forward. But yeah, all in all, if you cash, congratulations. It's a huge cash. If you didn't, though, don't beat yourself up over it. There's plenty of racing left this year, plenty of big racing left this year for these 3-year-olds. And I will see you next time.